All right, I want to welcome everyone to this class on the Noahide laws. Spoke last week about the Toshav. We're going to continue speak about the Toshav and a few difficult things from the Rambam, from Maimonides. So, we're being clear, or we tried to make clear, hopefully, the idea of the Toshav and why Agir Toshav we don't hold Toshav today. We're jubilant here, but there are things that we're obligated to do for the sake of Agir Toshav. Support that, other things. So now, when we look at, as we continue to look at Noahide identity, so we want to know different terminology. And see how different terminology either is or maybe not. All right, let's see if they're related. So the term Ben Noah, we would call Noah, we call it Noahide or B'nai Noah, plural of Noahide. So it appears in a lot of places. It appears in a lot of places, 50 places in the Talmud, in Rashi. It's interesting. Some people may say it's a made-up term. Some people think it's like a Christian idea. Not a Jewish term. Well, if you ever read the Talmud on the topic, and I remember someone gave an example many years ago. This will, age me or age everybody else, as well. Someone says, I don't believe there's such a place called Italy. Person said, okay, if you ever read this, obviously before the internet, if you ever read the Encyclopedia Britannica on the subject, I don't know if there's still such a thing, right? The Encyclopedia Britannica. No, I don't believe there's a place called Italy, because I don't believe there's a place called Italy. Okay? You can choose to believe that. Everyone's got free rights. And do what you want. But don't think that halachic literature, i.e. the Talmud, the commentaries, do not speak about the Noahide law. And that is just like, it's a made-up term, so to speak. There are some people out there, they don't like the term. Not too bad. Maybe you don't like the term. Well, what else do we call it? Right? The Gemara says clear. Right? You go to Sanhedrin, number of pages, it speaks about they know. Right? Noah, other sources. It's wrong, but point over here is about 50 places or more. Think about they know, Ben Noah. What's the simple meaning? What's the nation? And that is child of Noah. That's what it means. Ben means the son of. So how do we translate it? We're not going to say the son of Noah. Obviously, it sounds better. Definitely sounds better in Hebrew. And it does in English. And probably any other language. But what do we say B'nai Noah? It means non-Jews. That's what it means. Right? That's what it implies. Now, is it possible? We'll throw this out. Is it possible that it implies more? Their natural positive identity. Now, obviously, we understand that there is, but there are a number of ramifications. Right? A number of ramifications. Now, there are two difficult paragraphs in the Rambam, the Laws of Kings, chapter 8, halachas number 10 and 11. Now, we're going to have to see, we're going to have to understand, try and make sense of what they say. So, in the Laws of Kings, chapter 8, halacha 10, Rambam says Moses, our teacher, gave over the Torah mitzvahs only to the Jewish people. As is written, the inheritance of the congregation of David, Deuteronomy chapter 33, verse 4. And all who wish to convert from among the nations as you are, so shall the convert be before the Lord. I.e., someone who wants to convert, they can convert. I've read many times. People had no idea that they were allowed to convert. I don't know, they just thought it was only, you were born pretty good. It's not. You can't convert. Not true. However, those who wish to accept Torah mitzvahs, we don't force them to do so. Judaism is universal, unlike any religion. Any other religion, Christianity, Islam, believe in their Savior, you find out that. Judaism says, you keep what the Torah says, you don't have to convert. 100% you don't have to convert. You know, you still have a portion of the come. So it's commanded by Moses, by the Almighty, to force the peoples of the world to accept the commandments charged the children of Noah. That was going to be a little hard to understand. I have to clarify that. And all do not accept them shall be executed. Doesn't sound so universal to me. You don't accept it, you die. We force you to accept it. Alright, so that has to be explained. And that has to be explained. So we're gonna have to see. Right? We're gonna have to see. We're gonna have to see what that means. Right, how can it be? How can it be that you can force? There's an obligation. There's an obligation to force Jews keep the Noahide laws. You keep them, you kill them. That doesn't sound so universal. Right? That's one issue. There are a number of issues. What's the second issue? What's the second Allah? All except the 7 mitzvahs that are careful to observe them are called Chassidei Umos Ha'olam. What does that mean? They're the bias of the world. They have a share in the world to come. Provided you accept and observe them because they were commanded by the Holy One in the Torah. If you accept it because it makes sense to you, no good. You have to accept it because God gave the command to Moses to pass it. It is written by Moses. However, the person who observes them based on intellectual reason alone, he's not called to give Toshav. You're not called to give Toshav. You're not called because they almost all, right? The pious people of the world, rather the wise ones of the Gentiles. That's a little bit problematic. Meaning, if you accept it based on logic, a lot of the Noahide laws based on universal logic according to the Torah. I think there are a number that we wouldn't necessarily figure out. But a lot of it is universal. Right? It makes sense, logic. In general, we've spoken about that. But if you only kept the laws based on intellectual logic, good. You're not here, Toshav. You're not one of the highest people in the world. That doesn't sound so good. You get credit. All right, you certainly get credit. There's no question. You get credit over it, but it's not the same. Totally not the same. Person would rather be called one of the righteous of the world, right? One of the pious of the world. You can think, well, isn't being one of the wise men also good? Maybe. Imagine studying very hard for a test. Right, cramming all this information. Your mind goes a little bit blank. But you really work hard. Work hard, and guess what? You got a C minus. Okay? You got a C minus. You really should have got at least a B plus. But you got a C minus. You got a C minus. That's going to make a person feel bad. All right, you passed. Definitely passed. But it sounds like over here, even though you're going to get credit, it's couple steps down. Right here, Toshav. You know, speaking almost all of them. Right, you're not one of the pious people of the world, but you're one of the wise ones. I would say maybe it's better, probably better being a wise one than not. Right, that's for sure. But, if you had a chance to get an A, you got a C minus, you're not doing so good. Right, you won't be doing so good. Right, you get credit. Where do we get credit over here? Now, go through the difficulties. Trying to explain what's going on. So if you look at sense, we're going to label it as A and B. All right, for the first book, number 10. Then Moses, our teacher, came over the Torah mitzvahs, appointed the Jewish people as it's written, it's an inheritance, foundation of Jacob, Deuteronomy chapter 3, verse 4. All wish to convert from among the nations. As you are, you convert before the Lord. Numbers 15:15. For those who don't wish to accept Torah mitzvahs, we do not force them to do so. Now, when you look at it, sounds pretty simple. Sounds pretty clear. Right? The Torah is unique. Who does it belong to? The Jews. Anyone who wants to convert can't do so. And you don't force a non-Jew to convert. Now, very interesting, just as a side point. Now, there's some non-Jews in super Noahides. What are they going to say? I can keep Shabbos. Other holidays that don't apply to me, which we mentioned before. Right? So here's what are we saying? There are things that are uniquely Jewish. Shabbos is uniquely Jewish. We'll see what I can get out of it later. Right? Shavuos. God gave it to the Jewish people. Did he give it to non-Jews? No. Were there converts that came out of Egypt? Yeah. Out of Egypt, out of other places. Right? Potentially. Right? Those discussions, who they were, who the mixed multitude were. Right? No question. But Shavuos, Passover, they don't apply. They don't apply. Why? Because the Torah is unique possession of who? The Jews. Pretty clear. Belongs to the Jews. So therefore, we're not going to force anyone to convert. You don't have to convert. We're not going to convert you. It's voluntary. 100% voluntary. Okay. Let's go further. And so too, it was commanded by Moses, by the Almighty, to force the peoples of the world to accept the commandments charged by the children of Noah. Now, this is a little bit problem. Right? This is definitely a problem. Non-Jews, you can force them to keep the law. That apply to them. Right now, when we mention about this, right, we're talking about the conquest of the land of Israel. So, number 1 of the chapter opens, right, which, if you go to the beginning of the chapter, says when the army's troops enter the territory, conquering them and taking them down. That's what the Rambam says. Then it says that similarly a treaty cannot be made with the city which desires to accept peaceful settlement. You don't give a peaceful settlement until they deny idol worship, destroy the places of worship, and accept the 7 universal law. Meaning, the Jews come along, take over the land, non-Jews are there, they have to accept the Noahide law. They have to get rid of idolatry. Any Gentile does not accept these commandments, kill them. Kill them under our authority. Now, what's clear over here? What is 100% clear is that Jews are in control of the land. That's the first thing. The second thing is non-Jews have to give up idolatry, destroy the places of our worship. If they don't, you kill them. If they don't accept the Noahide laws, you kill them. Now, both halachas number 10 and 11 that we saw at the beginning, we're talking about calling people to accept the Noahide law. Now, if that's true, and we're speaking about conquest of Israel, why does the Rambam use the phrase force the people of the world? That's very problematic. because we're talking about the specific case. Specific case is the Jews invade and conquer the land of Israel. Who's in the land of Israel? Non-Jews. So if the non-Jews are there, why we say that they have to operate idolatry, they have to destroy idols, the universal laws? What do you mean, we people? We people. What do you mean, who's these peoples of the world? You're always talking about the inhabitants of Israel. Right? Where do you see what the Rambam says you're talking about Gentiles of the world? Problem. Now, the Rambam continues. All those who do not accept the law, the Noahide laws, kill them, execute them. And if they accept them, they're going to get killed. Now, what does that mean? You execute them. Also a little bit hard to understand. Right? One reason it's hard to understand is because it doesn't seem like the Rambam has a source. Now, the commentaries many times, when the Rambam brings down anything, in the Yalchazaka, all the laws, damages, marriage, divorce, the holiday, the laws of kings, which we're reading from, doesn't always bring a source. Now, that doesn't mean there is no source. All right? True, it doesn't mean that. It is that the commentaries will do whatever they can in order to find a source for what the Rambam said. That's not a contradiction. Right? In other words, if the Rambam doesn't have a source, commentaries usually find the source. If the Rambam doesn't say it. That's not so bad. But if we understand that we are obligated to force Noahide laws upon all the peoples of the world, what does that mean? If they don't accept, we kill them. Kill everybody. That would mandate execution of those who also fulfill the Noahide laws. They don't accept the formally for a basis. And now remember, who has to go in front of a basis? Who has to go in front of a rabbinical court? Toshav. But only a Toshav in the time of Jubilee year. If there's no Jubilee year, right, there's no Toshav, as we mentioned. Now, a Noahide really doesn't have to go in front of a basis. He has to go in front of a rabbinical court. If he decides to, okay, he's allowed to. Obligation, nobody says there's no obligation. Nobody says he's got no obligation. Only if he desires. Right? Makes them feel better, whatever the case is. If they want to, not a problem. Obligatory? No. Not obligatory. Now, we're saying over here that if you're telling me that they don't know by the Noahide laws, you kill them. But what about someone who fulfills the Noahide laws but does not accept them in front of a rabbinical court? Doesn't want to be a Toshav. I don't know. It doesn't do it formally. That's the problem. That would mean that even if they fulfill all the laws, they still die. Problematic. But one who observes them, we said before, based on intellectual reason alone, either called a Toshav, either called a Chassidei Umos Ha'olam, the highest people of the world, come to the highest. Now, let's analyze over here. Person who observes the Noahide laws based on reason alone doesn't mean they accept it in front of a basis. They accepted it based on their own knowledge. De facto, that means they go in front of a basis. So according to what we said before, such a wise one of the Gentiles will be executed because he didn't accept the Noahide laws. And it seems that's criteria over here. That criteria is you have to accept the Noahide laws in front of a basis. keeping the universal law. It has nothing to do with the fact that God passed it down to Moshe, passed it down to us. They can come to it from a purely intellectual standpoint. No different than Abraham. When Abraham came on the scene, everyone had their pocket God. Here's Bob. Don't we hold down him? We got that pocket God. Abraham came to the conclusion, either at the age of 3, the age of 40, difference of opinion, where he understood there's a world at the time. But he understood there was a God who runs the world. He didn't divine command. Everyone was idol worshippers. So there was no divine command at this point. He came to it intellectually. But guess what? Let's say he figured out what Mrs. God wanted him to do. But he did it because it made sense to him. Not because God commanded. Problem. Why do we keep the mitzvahs? Why do Jews keep mitzvahs? Non-Jews for that matter. As long as God spoke the motion. God gave the Torah on Sinai, passed it down. That's the reason. Now 80% of the Torah doesn't make sense. Logic. I would say most of the Noahide laws universally do make sense. That's why you have the Bible. They don't keep it. Much more severe prohibition. Right? Because it's logic. According to the Torah. I'm not going to get upstairs and say, hey, God will say, why don't you keep the Noahide laws? What do you mean? I never heard anything about the Noahide laws. Well, didn't you know you weren't allowed to steal? Now the IRS is different. Now, that's okay. They're taking 40%. That's not a problem. What about using Asia? Come on. Granddad was going to die anyway. He's like 102. He's like drooling. And hair coming out of his ears. Come on. Why are we going to keep him alive? Put him out of our misery. Using Asia. That's not murder. Really? It's not murder. Think about it. Things are universal. No, first it's not going to say, yeah, I didn't know. What do you mean you didn't know? How'd you not know? What, you didn't know you weren't supposed to worship a cow? I know, I think it's pretty obvious. Whoa, it's pretty obvious. Makes sense. Because cow dipping, why is cow dipping so much fun? Cow dipping is so much fun, supposedly, because when you push over a cow, you can't get up. Sleep standing up. So I guess it's a lot of fun when you're drunk. Push the cow over, can't get up. I don't know. I guess you have to be drunk for this. That doesn't sound like so much fun. It doesn't sound like so much fun. But in the end, God's going to say, come on. Isn't it true? Isn't it true that these things are universal? So if they are universal, they're going to play. They're play against them. So, what do I see over here? See that if you read the Rambam simply, to erase the identity of a Ben Noah, i.e. the Noahide, entirely, that's what we see. And the only available option is conversion. Because if I'm not keeping the Noahide laws for the right reason, death penalty. Even if I keep it for the right reason, but I don't go in front of a rabbinical court, I die. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense either. What are we saying? It would seem the simple explanation is you have to convert. That's the only safe way. 100% is the only safe way. Otherwise you're going to die. Right? That would be chapter 8 of the There's a number of problems. Zechariah chapter 11, verse 13. Right, but it seems to me that it refers to the rights of the Jewish people, not non. Now, the Gemara talks about it. It's an added other intensity. Talks about the reward earned by children of the wicked of the idolatry. Children of the wicked of the idolatry. Rashi over there says what it's talking about. The merit of the children of the righteous. There's a Masoros Hashatz. Sorry, Masoros Hashatz, which is a marginal gloss authored by Rabbi Yeshua Boaz in the 16th century. Cross references critical notes of communication. Now, the Masoros Hashatz over there says the earlier versions of the text. The earlier versions of the text of the Talmud and Rashi say not the children of the wicked of the idolaters. There's an earlier version that says the children of the nations of the world. And the pious people changes it. Right? There's an earlier version. Now, if that would be the case, what changed? What changed over here? Why was it changed? Could be the modern text, too modern. Too modern offended the church. Offended the church sense. Obviously, some things can't say. Right? So, over time where you don't have to come anymore. So people came up with these uncensored demands. For things that are they see others. And now we're part of every piece of stuff. So, we get an early version, we get a later version. But the status of the Chassidei, the rises of the eyes of the people, the eye of the world, is that you're tying their status. I.e., the status of these people, these righteous people, is the acceptance of no idol. Among the non-Jews. Right? That's going to be the question. Yeah, the question will be, I think it's on my end, but I'm not exactly sure why. But anyway, we're still going. Just sort of, I think it was good enough, but I mean, I'm still going. So anyone, I found I am, taking this place up. So anyone who wants my version, definitely send it to me. Right? So what's the question is? The question is, it says pious peoples of the world. They have to accept no idol. Now that being the case, how are they going to be pious? They don't accept Torah. They don't keep Torah. I would ask, how are they going to be pious? How are they going to know what to do? They won't know what to do. Right? But in asking the question, we're going to have an answer for it. And that is, why is there a connection? Why is there a connection? Because Chassidei, who goes on them, he taps into the no idol. Right? That is the question. Also a little bit surprising. Because it's already tells me. Right? Someone already tells me. 10,000 receive reward for fulfilling a mitzvah. Right? Number of forces. Can't say that. But again, why is the receiving of the eternal reward of the world to come dependent on the status of the pious people of the world and becoming a Gerson? Why is there a connection between the two? Right? That's the question. Why is there a connection between them? Now, the Rambam continues, and he says, provided you accept and observe them because you're commanded by God. All right, the Holy One blessed be. It's reaffirmed by Moses. Of course, the world comes, you want to be considered of the Chassidic of the Holy One. If you want, I could do that. All right, you want me to do that? Let me see. Let's see how we hopefully everyone can hear me okay. Hopefully you can hear me okay now. Echo, echo, check, 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 check. Hopefully that's better. A little bit choppy. I'm going to try a different thing here. Alright, maybe this is better. This is any better. Alright, how's this? Any better? Check, 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 check. Check, 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 check. Check. Okay, so I guess I'll continue. I won't put it on the camera. So I'll just continue that. So there was a problem, right? There was that over here by saying, I haven't forced the world to go. Right? In other words, what is the connection? What is the connection to getting reward of the world to come depending on the status of the Mechanism, right? Of the pious people of the world. Wow. How's a non-Jew going to get a portion of the world to come if they don't know about what they're supposed to? That's what I would say, simple explanation. Right? But we'll see. You know, why is one thing dependent on another? And also that, this is where we left off, that provided you accept and observe them because they were commanded by Holy One, blessed be He in His Torah. They're affirmed by Moses. You want to be one of the righteous, you got to accept the Noahide laws 100% because God passed it down to Moses. Moses passed it down. Right? So what's it based on? Revelation. Revelation of the Torah. Right? Which rejects the validity of acceptance based upon the original covenant. Right? In terms of opinion, whether all the Noahide laws were given to Adam, you know, or some were added on the 6th, given to Adam, 7th given to Noah. Right? So we say, you know, we'll say that Noahide law is not the Adam law, even though a number of the laws were given to Adam. But we call them the Noahide law. Right? Because the original covenant doesn't mean to apply one over the other. Right? So we're just going to stick with the term Noahide over here. So what do I have? I have what happened to Mount Sinai. Alright, Torah given at Mount Sinai. Because there's a covenant at Mount Sinai, pretty crucial. It accepts and given the Torah of Mount Sinai, this revelation, then non-Jew is not going to receive a reward. How can they get a reward? You have to believe God gave the Torah. God passed it down. Right? Seemingly that's what a person has to believe. Right? No question. Also, if you face intellectual reason, right? You're not calling here Toshav, you're not Mechasidim Muslim, the pious peoples of the world, you're the ones of the Gentiles. So now, not always acceptance of covenant certificates, fulfillment in the laws is based upon reason or logic, unacceptable. Not good enough. If you base it just on reason, right, i.e. a natural law or social necessity, doesn't merit to be called pious. You're only called wise. Right? You're only called wise over here. He didn't serve his laws based upon reason, why you should get reward. Right? Because the Rambam says you only get rewards if you accept because they were given a amount of time. We got a lot of questions. We have a lot of questions over here. And we have some answers. Oh, we have some answers over here. Let's go back. Let's go back. Now, in halacha number 10, after 8, laws of kings, number 10, halacha 10, talking about forcing acceptance of an execution. That's we'll speak about. But the question is, when we look at halacha 11, Because Halacha 11 says, all accept the 7 mitzvahs, careful to observe them. What are they called? We said the pious of the world. They are Chassidim with Torah. They have a share in the world to come, but they have to accept it because God gave the Torah. And Mount Sinai passed it down to Moshe. But if you do it on intellectual reason, not give Toshav, not Chassidim with Torah, rather one of the wise ones of the Gentiles. Comes along with Rabbi Chaim, author of the Shulchan Aruch, Code of Jewish Law. And he says, there's no source over it. Literally, there's no source saying that it appears to me that our master, either Rambam, made the statement as a result of his own deduction. So he brings this down against the Mishnah, his commentary in the Rambam. And what did he say? Where's the source? Where's the source of the Rambam? It doesn't seem like there's a source. He made it by his own conclusion. Nonetheless, comes along with Rabbi Chaim, he agrees. He agrees with this conclusion. Now, we mentioned earlier, even if there seemingly is not a source for the Rambam, does not automatically disqualify. Right? Just because he doesn't have a source doesn't necessarily mean he's disqualified. Now, the question is, if we don't have a source, then what does the Rambam mean? Right? What do you mean over here? You know, we have to try and come up with an explanation. You can't just say, well, we didn't have a source. Well, so where do you get it from? How do you understand it? The Sefer told us how to, written by Rabbi Chaim Coffman, biography of Rabbi Shlomo of Volozhin, brings down the story about Rabbi Shlomo Zalman of Volozhin. Shlomo Zalman of Volozhin was the famous Chaim of Volozhin, started the Volozhin Yeshiva, main student of the Vilna Gaon, or 250 years ago. The visiting Sephardic rabbi asked him the following: wanted to explain some difficult sections of the Rambam. Now, one of the questions was this source, right? Halacha number 11, about the source. So, Shlomo Zalman said, I got a medrash. The medrash says in the name of Chisda. So Chisda said, I've heard that the pious of the nations of the world have a share in the world to come. We have not been taught so regard the wise men of the nations of the world. So who is the pious man from among the nations of the world? One who accepts the 7 commandments because they're written in the Torah. Because God commanded, passed it down. But a wise man from among the nations, why does he observe them? From his own reason. Now, the Sefer told us Adam does not identify this medrash. It brings down the medrash, doesn't say where it came from. Now, it's a little bit problematic in a certain way. If you put a medrash, no one can find it. Right? Where is it? But no one really found it over here. But there was a manuscript of the lost medrash, what's called the Mishnahs of Rabbi Eliezer, which was discovered and published 1933, includes the following passage. What does it say? That's over there. Pious of the Gentile nation are only called pious when they fulfill its commanded unto the children of Noah and all their deeds. Provided they do so, saying, we fulfill them because our father Noah commanded us by the mouth of the mighty. I.e., you gotta believe God gave it. You don't believe God gave it, though? Right? If they do so, they merit the world to come just like a Jew. Even if they don't keep Shabbos and festivals, they weren't commanded to. But if they observe the 7 mitzvahs, saying we heard them from so-and-so, or in accordance with their own reason, they receive their reward only in this world. Now, they're only going to get reward in the world to come if they believe 100% that is coming from God. And these mitzvahs are coming from God. So this text seems to be right, the closest parallel of any rabbinic text we have. Right, according to halacha. Now, as we look at the medrash quoted in the Sefer Toshav, it's either corrupted or we recall the part of the mission's Rebbe. In other words, we have a medrash. We have a medrash. We're trying to look for a source of the Rambam. We have a medrash. What do you say? Now the question is that really the source? Is the Mishnah's Rebbe Eliezer the Rambam source for halacha? Now we could say it certainly could be, certainly possible. We know the Rambam was familiar with it, because he quotes it in the Sefer HaMitzvot, in the book of Mitzvot. However, there are two differences. Two obvious differences between the Mishnah's Rebbe Eliezer and the Rambam. First is, for the Mishnah's Rebbe Eliezer, you need to accept the Noahide laws because of the Noahic revelation. In other words, that it came from Noah. But Noah was commanded by God. Not that it came from outside. That's one major difference. Second is that the Mishnah's Rebbe Eliezer entered reward in this world for those who keep the Noahide laws, according to their own reason. Rambam makes no such statement. That's a wild idea. Tremendously wild idea. I'm not just going to keep the Noahide laws. Now, why does anyone keep any laws in general? We're going to get a reward. The reward is not going to be in this world, be in the next one, in general. Right? We're going to make it easy. Right? The reward should be in the next one. Now, the Mishnah Berkei that says in ethics for our father, the highest level is the person without getting reward. Or without getting any reward at all. The highest level. But if you serve them and get reward, you also get credit. But have an ulterior motive. What do I care if you have an ulterior motive? Even if a non-Jew has an ulterior motive. Right? Why would it be? Why would it be? They want your reward in this world. Even if they're keeping it. Even if they're keeping it because of their own reason. I understand. You know, they're going to get a greater reward, obviously, if God said it, and they keep it. But even if they keep it based on their own reason, why are they going to forfeit their portion of the world to come? Why are they only going to get a reward in this world? A little bit hard to understand. Right? That's the second major difference. And the Rambam makes no such statements. The Rambam says they get rewarded in this world also. The greatest reward, but they get reward anyway. Even if they keep it based on their own motive. Now, whether or not the Mishnah's Rebbe Eliezer was relied upon by the Rambam or not, there's a tradition. We have a tradition somewhere validating what the Rambam says. But it could be. It could be that the Rambam is really based upon a famous Talmudic passage in Tractate Public Health. Right? Could be that's the source. That very well could be the source. You know, also. So the question is, what is exactly the source? We put precedent to even know a little bit of this. And even though there's a little bit of difference over here in the message, we're going to source over. Now we have to remember as well that even if the Rambam doesn't say quote, it doesn't invalidate it. And many times, majority of time, Rabbi Yosef Karo in the Shulchan Aruch goes like the Rambam. Across the board almost, like the Rambam. That's how he passes. That's how he, goes according to Jewish law. For him, the bottom line authority was the Rambam. So here we're just trying to figure out, what the source possibly may be. But if you look at these two passages, Noahide And to say that the non-Jew, they only keep based on their own intellect, their own gad supports in this world, and not in the world to come, that's a very hard thing to say. Yeah, that's a very hard thing to say. So I guess I'm going to stop there. I don't have any, I hope that's clear. But any questions on that, about these two halachas and trying to make sense, out of this idea of the Hasidim with the Fulham, Toshav, whether they have to accept the Torah, they have to accept that the Noahide laws were given by God on Mount Sinai or not. Any questions on any of that? Or any general questions? And I do apologize, my connection up until this point. Had some other issues right before, but it is a little bit choppy. I don't know how it's going to come out here. You can send me an email. Send me an email. I don't think my copy came out. Choppy. So anyone wants my copy, definitely send it. But for better for next week. Usually it's pretty good. I haven't had too many. I haven't had too many issues, but trying to do a good thing. Even crazy comes once at the moment. So hard enough. Trying to get to this material, but you want to get this material? We're gonna make it choppy. That was gonna be able to see him. Maybe it's better that way. I don't know, but I think there is a difference. Also, I noticed that on a different. I'm using right now Firefox instead of Chrome. And I did notice that no quicker than on Chrome. On Chrome, it's just kind of like spin. It takes forever, right? So it could be, pretty issue with Chrome. Action could be both. Not really sure. In either case, we're going to find out. Have any questions again? Any questions? You can email me and see everybody next week.